Hi there. Welcome to Escape Room Coding. Want to build a real-world Python project using just a command line and a CSV file? In this video, we will create a super cool inventory tracker. No framework, no fluff, just Python and pure logic. Let's get started. In this mini project, we will learn how to use dictionary to store inventory, read and write CSV file, handle user input in CLI, build real-world functionality step by step. We are building a command line inventory tracker. The user can add items with quantity, remove items, check current stock, show full inventory, and everything will be saved to a CSV file so your data won't be lost. Let's import all the required modules. We imported Python's built-in CSV module to read and write CSV files, and OS module to check if the file exists. Let's create a variable to store the file name, and a dictionary to store item names as key and quantities as values. Let's define a function to check if the CSV file exists. If it does, we will read each line and add to the dictionary. So here is the function load inventory. Now this function will check if the CSV file exists. And if the CSV file exists in our system, we are going to open that file in read mode and create a temporary variable called file. The new line parameter is used when we are working with CSV file in Python, especially on Windows. When Python writes a CSV file, it might automatically add extra blank lines between rows if you don't use new line. Okay, so I'm opening the CSV file in read mode and assigning a temporary variable to that file. Now let's read each line from the CSV file. I'm going to create a variable called reader, and we will use the CSV module. Let's read that file. Now we will have all the CSV data in the reader list. Let's loop through the list and get the item and the quantity. Alright, so the function is completed. This function is going to check if the CSV file exists, and if the file exists, it will read each line like apple is our item and let's say it has 5 quantities, and add it to the dictionary, the inventory dictionary which we have. We are also converting the quantity into an integer and assigning that converted value to the inventory dictionary. Now we need a function to save the inventory to the CSV file. Let's create that. Okay, so that is the function. Now let me explain a bit. So this function writes the inventory to a CSV file and it saves as a row like this. So in the first line, I'm opening the CSV file in write mode, and I have also given the new line characters and created a temporary variable called file. Again, I have created a list and used the CSV module to write to the file, to write our data to the file. Now, next statement here, what I'm doing is I'm looping through the inventory list. The for loop will loop through all the items in the inventory. And since we have two columns, one is item and the other one is quantity, so I have created two variables here to represent each column, and using the writer list, and there is a function to write row in the CSV file. So I'm just passing the item and quantity here. We need a function to add new items to the CSV file. So for that, we will create another function, add items. Whenever we will call this function to add new items to the CSV file, we will pass two parameters. One is the item and the other one is quantity. Let's check if the item sent to this function is already present in the inventory list. If the item is in the inventory, we will just increase the quantity. Else, we will create a new item in the inventory. Let's give a confirmation message. That's it. Okay, so this is the function. Let me explain what I have done. So the first statement is checking if the item which is sent to this function, to be removed. I'm checking if that item is there in the inventory. If the item is present in the inventory, right? So this part will run. Now inside that, there are two checks. The first, what I'm checking is if the item quantity is less than the quantity sent to this function. All right, then I'm deleting the entire item. Next, if the quantity of that item is not less than the quantity sent here to this function, I'm just subtracting the quantity of that item from the inventory and displaying a message. Now let's create a function to check the stock of a quantity. In this function, I am checking if the item is in the inventory dictionary. If it is, then I'm just displaying the item and the inventory or the quantity of that item. If the item is not present in the dictionary, I'm just displaying a message saying item is not in inventory. Now let's create a function to display all the items in the dictionary, right? Let's do that. Okay, so this function is done. So what I'm doing here is I'm just checking if the inventory is not empty. If it is empty, I'm just saying inventory is empty. And if the inventory is not empty, I'm just printing a message saying current inventory and looping through all the items in the inventory and printing each item and the quantity. Okay, so we have created a couple of functions to perform each activity or each operations. Like if you want to add some quantity to the inventory, I have created add items for that. If you want to remove um, an item or reduce the quantity of that item, so we have the remove item function for that. And we have also created a method to check if the item is there in the inventory. So this function is very important because we need to load the CSV file into the memory before performing, our operations like adding item, removing item, checking if the item exists, and showing all the inventory. So for that, we need to load data in the CSV file. So this function is performing the loading activity. Now let's create the main loop. And there we have it. Now let me explain this function a bit. So the first statement is I'm calling the load inventory method, which is very important before performing any activity on the CSV file, right? We need the existing data from the CSV file to perform any operations. Like if you want to remove an item, if you want to increase the quantity of an item, you need to have those data in your memory to perform those activity, right? So we are loading the CSV or we are loading the data from the CSV in memory. Next, I'm just displaying two print statement. First is welcome to inventory tracker, and the second is what command to give and what is the parameter for that command. So let's say if you want to add an item to the inventory, you need to give the add command with the quantity and the item. If you want to check if the item exists in the inventory, you can call the check command along with the item name. All right, next I have created a while loop, infinite while loop, so that our program runs until user enter quit command. I'm accepting the command from the user and converting it into lowercase and removing extra space if there are any. If command equal to quit, I'm just calling the save inventory to save all the inventory from the inventory dictionary to the CSV file, so that when you come out of this loop, those data are still there in the CSV file and we can use those later. If the command is show, we are just calling the show inventory method. And here I'm checking if the command starts with add, right? If the command starts with add or remove. If it is, I'm just splitting the command into a list. Now the first part will be quantity, because if you are passing the add command, and then the first parameter should be a quantity and then the item name. So here I'm just getting the quantity from the first position of the parts list. Now if you see this statement, item equal to space join, join the second part. So let me explain this. Let's say user enters this command, add 3 green apples. Then Parts equal to command dot split becomes a list. The element of the list would be add 3 green apple. Now if you run item equal to space dot join and part the list with 2. Now if you run this, it becomes green apple, a single string. In the next statement, I'm calling the add items function and passing the item and the quantity to add to the inventory list. Next, I'm checking if the command starts with remove. If it is, I'm performing the same activity as I was doing in add method. Like I'm splitting the command into a list. I'm getting the first part of the list as quantity. Second, and I'm joining multiple words into a single string and passing these values to remove item. If command starts with check, I'm just getting the item from the command and removing any extra spaces, passing the item to check item function to check if the item exists in the list or in the inventory list. Now, if value of command does not match with any of the predefined commands like quit, show, add, remove, then I'm just saying unknown command. Now let us call the main method. All right, that's it. Now let me explain you what I've done here. So here I'm just checking if the variable name has the value main. If it does, then I'm calling the main function, this one. So I could have just called the main function like this, right? But instead, I'm calling the main function after validating if name equal to main. Name is a special variable in Python whose value is main if we are directly executing this program. But when you import this program into some other programs, then the value of name variable would be the name of the imported program, right? So this part, the main function will only run when you execute this program directly from this file. And if this file or if this program is imported somewhere else, then the main function will not run. But obviously we can use the other functions which we have defined. And that's it. The program is completed. Let's run the program and see the output. Here it is. So welcome to inventory tracker. If I want to add a new item to the inventory, I will just say add. I will give some quantity, let's say 10, and I'll give the item as item added, 10 bananas added. Now if I want to see how many items are there in the inventory, I will just call the show function. All right, seems like there is a bug in our program. So yeah, let's fix it and rerun this program. The error is now there is no function called item in a dictionary, so it should be items, right? I think this should fix our issue. Let me clean my screen first, and I'll rerun our program. Let me check if the previous item which I added was added to the inventory list. So I'll just execute my show command. Okay, there are 2 apples. Now there is no banana. So that might not have been saved because the program was cancelled because of the error. Let me add one more item to the inventory. So add. Okay, 210 oranges added. Now if I give the command show, will it show us? All right, so we have 2 apples, 210 oranges. Now let's remove couple of oranges from our inventory. So remove, I'll say 10 quantities from oranges, 10 quantities removed. So if I check the inventory again, I should get 200 quantities in oranges and one apple. Now let me delete the apple from our inventory. So I'll say remove two quantities of apple, remove completely from inventory. Now let's check the list. Now we only have the oranges, right? So now we have seen the output of this program, and we have also added a couple of our inventories to the list or to the inventory CSV file. We have also removed a couple of quantities from the dictionary, and we displayed all the inventories available in the inventory dictionary. Okay, now let me come out of this loop. You just build your own CLI inventory tracker in Python. This is how real tools are made. If you want a challenge, try adding features like expiry date, item category, sorting alphabetically, export the data to JSON. You could try that as well. So yeah. And hey, drop a comment if you like me to add a GUI to this program later. Hit like, share with your Python pals, and I will see you in the next project.